The first time I stepped into Rome's streets, I felt the weight of history pressing in from every corner, every stone beneath my feet. The forum pulsed with life, merchants shouting, sandals clacking on stone, laughter echoing through columns. I paused, watching temples and statues that had witnessed centuries. Each monument seemed to hum with untold stories. And then I saw him, from across the courtyard, Julius Caesar, moving with the quiet authority of a man who commands not just armies, but time itself. I followed quieter paths, away from the crowds, shadows stretching across the marble. The city felt like it held its breath. Even the markets, with hundreds of voices and clattering coins, seemed part of a rhythm I didn't quite yet understand. Soldiers marched past, armor glinting, each step echoing with discipline and power. I wondered if I could ever comprehend the weight of a man who commanded such loyalty. I paused at a fountain, watching the water ripple through sunlight. Out here, history felt tangible, yet fleeting, a reminder that time flows past all of us. The streets glowed orange as the sun fell, long shadows stretching across the marble. Each corner of Rome whispered secrets I could barely grasp. Day after day, I traced his path from a distance, always curious, always careful. Rome was alive, and he was the pulse at the center. I moved through a marble garden, sunlight falling between columns, shadows deepening. Even here, the city felt dominated by him. From a balcony, I watched Rome unfold, its streets, its markets, its life, and him ever present like a heartbeat beneath it all. From these rooftops, the city stretched endlessly, alive, powerful, eternal. Every step I took had been through centuries. As night fell, Rome quieted, but the echoes of history lingered in every stone, every shadow, and I knew I had only witnessed a fragment of its story. And something deep inside of me whispered, one day you'll return. Thanks for traveling through ancient Rome with me. If you want to keep exploring, the next portal takes me straight into ancient Egypt, where I meet Cleopatra herself.
So, you've come to see what time has forgotten.
I guess I have. I arrived on the Nile at dawn. The river flowed silently, carrying centuries of whispers of empires long forgotten. I felt the weight of history pressing gently upon my shoulders. Every civilization greets a stranger differently. Here, the Nile itself seemed to watch, as if questioning why I had come to witness what was slipping away. The city pulsed with life. Merchants shouted, animals brayed, children played. Yet beneath it all, I sensed fragility, a quiet knowledge that time was running out. A harp sang softly beside the river. Its notes tried to outshine the chaos, but even music bends to impermanence. I wondered if Cleopatra had heard such melodies in her youth. The children played, unaware of history crumbling around them. Their laughter was a rebellion against inevitability, a spark of defiance. The sun sank, casting long shadows over the city. Each stone seemed to hold a story, each whisper of wind a secret. Beyond the walls, the desert stretched endlessly. The silence demanded attention. Here, history's pulse felt tangible beneath my feet. A shrine almost swallowed by sand, its carvings told stories untouched by Rome, by conquest. Cleopatra's vision lingered here, hidden yet persistent. Inside, I felt whispers, memory of voices. They spoke of ambition tempered by wisdom, of a queen who sought more than dominion. Every step through the sand felt like tracing history's heartbeat. Each grain held a fragment of Cleopatra's story. At night, the river whispered. I imagined the conversations Cleopatra had in solitude, decisions that shaped empires yet remained invisible to history. The river mirrored fragments of her presence. I could almost see her walking through these streets centuries ago, her shadow guiding the future she envisioned. The temple loomed ahead, a skeleton of ambition and artistry. History had hidden Cleopatra's truth in plain sight. Light streamed through the cracks, illuminating murals and hieroglyphs. Each beam seemed deliberate, as if she had known someone like me would arrive. Each carving a message, each symbol a heartbeat preserved for eternity. Cleopatra's true power was not conquest. It was the ability to make time itself remember. Scrolls untouched by conquerors spoke of a vision, a world preserved with knowledge, art, and culture. She had built Egypt not for herself, but for the future. Knowledge once burned brighter than any torch. Now only dust remained, yet Cleopatra's intent lingered, resilient. I walked among flowers Cleopatra once tended. Her presence was here, a quiet defiance against time itself. Even in stone, she commanded attention, not as a ruler, but as someone who dared to shape history with vision and grace. And then she was there, alive in a moment I never imagined.
So, you've come to see what time has forgotten.
Her eyes held not just power, but depth, wisdom, and a quiet sorrow. We didn't speak. Words were unnecessary. I felt her intentions, her dreams for Egypt, and the burden of knowing history would twist them. She showed me visions of a kingdom she wished to preserve, not conquered, but understood, remembered, and respected. The Nile reflected her dreams, flowing onward like her vision. I realized why she had endured, not for power, but for legacy. Her presence settled into me like stones in a riverbed. They would echo for far longer than my time here. And then she vanished just as suddenly as she appeared. Yet her presence lingered in the chamber, the garden, the river, everywhere Egypt's spirit remained. I left the city carrying her vision with me. Every ruined wall, every stone whispered lessons she had etched into eternity. The desert stretched before me, vast and unbroken. Each grain of sand seemed alive with memory, with stones that would never fully fade. As I returned to the Nile, I felt a quiet reverence for the land and the people who had carried her legacy. History's heartbeat was still here, waiting to be felt. And though centuries separate me from her, I know that some presences never fully vanish. Cleopatra's Egypt endures, in stone, in story, and in the flow of the eternal river. Thanks for exploring ancient Egypt with me. If you want to keep going, the next portal takes me into ancient Greece, where I sit down with Socrates himself. I arrived in Athens as the first light of day touched the Acropolis. The city shimmered like an idea made real, alive with thought, ambition, and faith. The Agora was already stirring. Voices echoed through narrow streets, scholars, merchants, travelers, each carrying their own story. I wandered among the vendors, the scent of clay and olives filling the air, wondering how so much life could fit into one place. Temples rose like mountains of marble, every column a reminder that beauty is sacred here. As the sun began to set, I walked the quiet streets, and for the first time I felt the rhythm of Athens beating inside me. The next week, I found myself drawn to the debates, young minds clashing, words flying like sparks. They weren't searching for victory, but for truth. And then I saw him, Socrates. His questions cut deeper than answers ever could. He spoke like a man who had long since made peace with not knowing. I spent the afternoon sketching the city, trying to capture its grace and movement. But how can you draw something that feels so alive? When night fell, Athens transformed. Torches flickered against stone walls, and the city exhaled, still, thoughtful, eternal. In the days that followed, I explored more deeply. Artisans at work, their hands shaping the clay that would outlive them. Music carried across the Agora, soft and bright, a song of harmony between art and reason. When I saw Socrates again, he was speaking softly to a few students, his tone gentle, almost fatherly. It wasn't just his words, it was how he made silence feel full. I climbed the steps of the Acropolis, the world spreading out beneath me. Every road led back to the same question: what does it mean to live wisely? At sunset, the light turned the city to gold. For a moment, I forgot time itself existed. By the fourth week, Athens had become familiar. The market pulsed with energy, laughter, and the scent of roasted grain. Children played by the fountains, their laughter echoing off the stone, proof that joy was the heartbeat of the city. At the temples, rituals unfolded with quiet reverence. Faith and daily life intertwined like threads of the same tapestry. I found Socrates again, his voice rising over the hum of the crowd. He spoke of courage, not the kind that fights wars, but the kind that faces truth. As the day faded, I walked beneath the rows of columns, their shadows stretching long. The city glowed with memory. By the fifth week, I saw Athens differently. The scholars copying their scrolls weren't just preserving knowledge, they were preserving hope. Even the statues felt alive, each one whispering fragments of the human story. I sat by a fountain and watched the people move through the square, each gesture part of a rhythm that never stopped. Then, one final time, I saw Socrates. He was calm, surrounded by those who still believed that asking questions could change the world. That evening, I climbed the Acropolis again. The sun slipped behind the hills, and I felt something within me settle, a quiet understanding. Night came softly, the city glowing with torchlight and reflection. Athens felt eternal, a living mind that never sleeps. Under the stars, I wondered if enlightenment was ever meant to be found, or simply followed. As dawn broke, I walked the misty path leading out of the city. The air was cool, the sound of distant voices fading behind me. I carried with me no answers, only the questions that made me feel alive. And so, I left the city behind. But something of it stayed within me, the courage to ask, the wonder to seek, and the silence that follows truth. Thanks for journeying through ancient Greece with me. If you want to keep going, the next portal takes me into the Roaring Twenties, where the jazz is live and the city never sleeps. I arrived in New York, 1925. The air itself seemed to hum with ambition, as if the city knew it was standing on the edge of something electric. They called it the Roaring Twenties, but it wasn't just the sound of music, it was the sound of people finally exhaling after years of war and silence. Every note from the trumpet felt like rebellion, every dance a declaration that life would not be quiet again. I met a writer that night. He told me everyone here was chasing something, love, fame, or just a place where the world finally made sense. From the rooftops, the city felt infinite. Skyscrapers rising like prayers, lights shimmering like promises. Behind closed doors, whispers turned to laughter and rules were just another thing to dance around. It was excess and escape all at once. People trying to forget how fragile joy could be. And the rhythm was contagious. Every beat said you're alive, for now. Outside, a trumpet player told me he'd play until his fingers gave out, because in this decade, even silence felt like sin. By day, men in suits chased fortunes like they were racing the clock itself. And in hindsight, maybe they were. The world believed the good times would never end, that the music, the money, the miracles would go on forever. But I could feel it, a tension beneath the laughter, like a song playing just a little bit too fast. It was a golden age built on glass. fragile, beautiful, and destined to crack. The leaves were falling like the last dance of a decade that didn't know it was running out of time. Everyone was trying to live faster than the fortune, because somewhere deep down, I think they all knew the music wouldn't last forever. And for a moment, as the last song faded, I thought I heard the silence waiting, patient, inevitable. The sun rose and the city exhaled. Another night survived, another dream spent. They didn't know it was coming. The crash, the hunger, the ghosts of a decade's laughter. I wanted to warn them, but time travelers aren't meant to change the story, only witness it. As the city disappeared behind me, I realized maybe the beauty of the Roaring Twenties wasn't in how it lasted, but how fiercely it lived. They burned bright, too bright, and maybe that's why their light still echoes through time. And in truth, the music never really stopped. It just found new ways to be heard. Every era thinks it's invincible, until it becomes history. As I walked away, I carried with me one lesson. Joy is sacred, but it's never guaranteed. Maybe that's why the Roaring Twenties still haunt us, because deep down, we all want to believe the music never stopped. The Roaring Twenties didn't end with a warning. It ended with a fall. Within a few short years, fortunes vanished, streets emptied, and hope grew quiet. This is where prosperity collapsed, and the Great Depression began. The moment I stepped into the Great Depression, the air felt heavy, as if the land itself remembered every hardship it had endured. Standing on that barren field, I felt an ache in my chest, like I stepped into the heart of someone else's sorrow. The wind carried dust like it carried memories, sweeping past me with the weight of thousands of untouched stories. As I shielded my face, I realized the storm wasn't just in the air, it lived in the people who called this place home. The empty farmhouse felt like a heartbeat halted mid-pause, frozen by forces no one chose. Stepping through its doorway, I sensed the ghosts of a life interrupted, lingering like faded echoes. Each step across the crackled earth felt like walking through someone's unspoken grief. Yet underneath the dust, I sensed a faint pulse of hope, waiting for its moment to rise again. I watched a family pack their life into a single cart, every item a memory they refused to abandon. Their quiet courage struck me harder than any storm ever could. The empty road stretched onward like a question with no certain answer. Every abandoned wagon whispered stories of journeys cut short but never surrendered. Boarded windows and silent streets felt like a town holding its breath. In the stillness, I sensed dreams lying dormant but not dead. In the breadline, hunger shaped the silence more than any words could. Yet the way people stood, patient, proud, revealed a strength no hardship could erase. Watching strangers care for one another reminded me that humanity survives even in scarcity. The silent factory felt like a monument to a world paused mid-motion, but in the workers' eyes, I saw a glimmer that someday the gears would turn again. The men on the bench spoke softly, their voices worn by uncertainty, but in their shared silence, I felt a quiet brotherhood holding them together. Children turned scraps into toys and dust into imagination. Their laughter broke through the heaviness around them like a small, defiant miracle. I watched a family tend to stubborn soil, refusing to let the land defeat them. Every seed they planted felt like a whispered prayer for tomorrow. At the station, families boarded trains with more hope than belongings. Each departing whistle sounded like both a farewell and a fragile promise. By the firelight, strangers shared stories that stitched a temporary family together. In that fragile glow, the world felt gentler than the daytime allowed. Repairing a worn plow felt symbolic, like trying to mend a life with hands that refused to quit. Hope often begins in moments exactly like this, quiet, stubborn, unwavering. In the shelter's dim light, exhaustion and compassion mingled in equal measure. Even with nothing, people found ways to care for one another, and it touched me far more than I realized. As dust swirled in the fading light, the sky looked bruised but not defeated. I felt the resilience of the plains echoing in the resilience of its people. A lone musician played with a kind of honesty only hardship can carve out. Every note felt like a thread stitching hope back into weary hearts. I watched someone write a letter by candlelight. Words became bridges when voices couldn't travel across the distance. Even the smallest harvest felt like a celebration in a world of scarcity. Gratitude shone brighter than the goods themselves. At the dinner table, laughter returned like a long-lost guest. Their unity reminded me that love often thrives where comfort cannot. In the schoolhouse, children learned with a hunger deeper than the one in their stomachs. Their dreams felt like seeds waiting for a kinder season. On the streets, people gathered not out of anger but out of necessity, demanding dignity in a world that had forgotten its fairness. Their courage stirred something in me, a reminder that hope often begins with a single raised voice. At dusk, the horizon glowed as if answering the stories I'd carried through the day. In that quiet moment, I felt both the weight of their struggle and the strength behind their survival. Watching children sleep by the fire felt like witnessing the future resting in fragile hands. Their peace was a quiet reminder of what everyone here fought to protect. When the machines rumbled back to life, the sound felt like the world exhaling after a long silence. It was a small rebirth, but a powerful one. On a quiet porch, stories of laughter returned in soft, healing waves. Hope didn't shout. It settled gently, like dust finally choosing to rest. The sunset painted the plains in colors untouched by hardship. Even the sky seemed determined to remind them that beauty still lives here. In the silence of that final night, I realized the Great Depression wasn't defined by its darkness, but by the countless small lights that refused to go out. Even in my own time, I could tell this was a gentle reminder. Within times of darkness, there's always a light leading us forward. In the Great Depression, survival meant enduring, but in another time, survival meant setting sail. Next, I traveled to the age of the Vikings.